Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. If it's one thing you will learn from artists, YouTube content creators, designers, voice actors, and a host of others will almost invariably be, make sure you pay your talent. And it is that very sentiment that has landed Pathia Games, the developers of the game My Time at Portia, into hot water. While it seems the issue is slowly being resolved, this was a growing problem for the over 60 individual voice actors that had been contracted to provide voiceover for the game. As always, we'll run through the facts as I currently am aware of them, and then I'll provide my opinion on the information contained within this video. Links to any sources used will be in the description down below. Now, the best place to start in cases like these is, of course, at the beginning of when people were realizing there was troubled waters ahead. Now, I was directed to this Steam post by the user Meezy, in which they outlined some very troubling concerns regarding the treatment of the voice actors for the game. The allegations they made within that post were as follows. The developers originally had no intention of paying their voice talent until they started receiving pushback. The developers were not paying their voice actors on time, and they were paying far below industry standard for voice work. Spontaneous changes of deadlines, a general lack of responsiveness to the voice actors they had hired, voice actors not being paid months after work was completed, quote, being vague and shady about the work involved, seemingly in order to mask the low rates for amount of work required until contracts were signed. Recasting roles without informing the original voice actors they'd been replaced, and statements regarding the Kickstarter being wildly successful and yet they're being able to pay voice actors below industry standard. Now, in regards to the game's Kickstarter, it had a $100,000 goal, and they did manage to raise a total of $146,697 by the time the Kickstarter campaign had completed. Now, I'd also gotten pinged by a couple of third parties on Twitter, and I stated I would be looking to speak with any voice actors willing, and I did end up talking with 6 individuals that are voice actors in the game, and they all painted a very similar picture. Now, so you're aware, all of them wanted to speak to me under an assurance of anonymity, owing to the fact that in this aspect of the industry, even coming forward with complaints against a developer could end up harming one's chances of booking future work with other developers. I've found that voice actors are extremely cognizant of that fact, and I don't want to do anything that could potentially do damage to their perceived reputations within the industry, even though all they're doing is attempting to make sure they get paid for the work they provided. So, bearing that in mind, I'll discuss the common factors that all 6 voice actors related to me. They all gave me an impression that the developers were inexperienced with handling the business side of booking actors for work. They had set a final date for auditions and then closed early, which isn't something you do in the industry, as people will schedule their audition recording times only to have the door slammed in their faces without warning and through no fault of their own. It was also pretty universally related to me that the voice actors had the impression that the developers didn't know what they were getting themselves into with the amount of work required when dealing with such a vast number of voice actors, some being forced to submit lines mere days before the game's release. Now, I did reach out to Pathia Games for comment, but as of recording this, I did not receive a response. However, the developers did post the following on Steam in order to address the issue, and in that post, the developers also stated a general lack of experience and also said that they had spent the past 3 months attempting to rectify the communication issues and to get their voice actors paid, running into a variety of issues as they attempted different methods of payment versus work completion scenarios. As of 2 days ago, I'd received reports from several of the voice actors that they'd been paid what they were owed, and it would seem there's no ill will between the voice actors I spoke with and the developers. And so that is where we currently stand. And my thoughts on all of this? Well, I was legitimately concerned. My time at Portia is, while still rough around the edges with several glaring omissions, such as voiceover being turned off by default in the settings, you're having the ability to select voices even though selecting them does not provide you with the ability to preview them before selecting them for your character, and a host of other minor quality of life improvements that are outright admitted, it is still a very solid game within its genre with a likable charm that players will easily be able to identify. It's a good game, and I'd say it's worth the $30 asking price if you're a fan of open world crafting games. I also honestly think that in this instance, we weren't dealing with a dirty dev or any kind of scammer here. Hanlon's razor, I think, very much applies in this instance, and I think the issues here can be chalked up to a combination of ignorance and inexperience more than anything else. Granted, the voice actors seemingly got paid very quickly after this became an issue, so the attention all of this was beginning to gather, I'm sure, spurred the developers to pick up their proverbial feet and make a mad dash to get caught up with their voice actors as quickly as possible. It was very much a good thing that this issue was brought to light, though. I don't have any reason to doubt that voice actors would have been paid eventually, but it's good that everyone can now put this issue behind them, continue on to more work, and gamers get to be able to enjoy a good crafting game without having to worry that they might be supporting a shady developer. And I think that's important. We've seen so much shady behavior in recent days. Publishers scamming their developers, a continued rise of asset flips and other fake games clogging up the Steam storefront, copyright lawsuits galore, and even scam issues in the esports scene that I plan on going over either later today or tomorrow. It's good to see that what could have easily turned into a nightmare for the voice actors and for the game developers be amicably resolved in a satisfactory manner for all parties. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.